At the start of the year, there was a very particular AI, healthcare AI stock that suddenly spiked in price, actually doubled in price in a matter of weeks. And this was the headline: Nancy Pelosi invested in a new AI stock that's spiking in value. That stock, that company is called Tempus AI. We've talked about that previously. I did a specific video talking about her position, or well, the options position, what the company does. So let's have a quick recap of what Tempus AI does. They are reporting earnings next week, I believe. So stick around for the rest of the video. Alright, so Tempus AI, ticker symbol TEM, is still up year to date above 50%. At one point, of course, it was up 160% year to date. It's a company with a market cap just above $9 billion, still unprofitable, but this is a company that is growing quickly and is still expected to grow quite rapidly revenue-wise in the next 2 years. So yes, if you're looking for a PE here, trailing or forward one, there is literally no point in looking at that at the moment. Now, what is Tempus AI? What do they do? What's so special about it? Let's discuss that in this video. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons. Would really appreciate that. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and end up in comment to the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. And a special thanks to FinChat for supporting this video. This week, you can get 25% off instead of 15% if you use my link down in the description and in the pinned comment. FinChat is the platform that you're seeing here on the screen, but more on them in just a bit. Now, what does this company actually do? Well, in short, it's basically a platform that is supposed to help doctors, patients. So imagine you have a huge library of books. It's always the same example that I use when I try to explain these types of platforms and AI systems. So you have a library full of books about different people's health. Tempus system basically reads those books and uses their AI, their algorithms, to help doctors understand what might be the best way to help each person get better. So here again, we're talking about personalized care. We've talked about personalized care when talking about HIMSS, when talking about, believe it or not, Teladoc as well. So here we have another company trying to do that. They also look at things like what kind of sickness a person has, what medicine works for others with similar problems, and how doctors can use this information to make the best choices for each patient. And of course, data here is of extreme importance. They show us this slide right here. They are connected to over 65% of all academic medical centers, and over 50% of oncologists in the United States are connected through their sequencing and data collection efforts. As a result, they have over 200 petabytes of rich multimodal healthcare data. And in the age of generative AI and all this AI talk, it's very, very important to have proprietary data. I hope that short overview helped understand Tempus a little bit more. Now, if we go back here on FinChat, the stock research platform, and one that actually tracks company-specific metrics, because usually that's one of the things that really lacks on a lot of other platforms out there. So if you go here at segments and KPIs, we can look at how they actually generate revenue. So Tempus generates revenue through two categories. One is the genomics one, and the other one is the data services revenue. Now, if we go and look at the growth rates since the March quarter of 2022, well, the data and services revenue has grown at a compound annual growth rate of 57.74%. If you look at the genomics one, which is the largest segment at the moment, that has also grown quite quickly, a bit less, 52.11%. Now, of course, them still being a pretty small company, all things considered, especially in the market that they're playing in. If you look at the total addressable market, this is still quite small revenue-wise. So I do still expect them to grow quite rapidly. Can they continue to grow at a compound annual growth rate of above 50%? Remains to be seen. Now, since this is a fairly new company, we don't have that much data to work with, that many segments and KPIs to work with for this specific company, but we have here remaining total contract value, or TCV, that has increased year over year. And what has also increased is net revenue retention, went from 125% to 140%. Now, everything above 100% is good. Everything above 120% is great. Now this sits at 140%. That's very, very good. Now, of course, the more they grow, I don't really see how they can stay at around 140% or so. But if they can stay at around 115, 120 for a long period of time, especially in their growth cycle, I think they'll do extremely well. And so, like I said, all of this can be found on FinChat. You can play around with, well, Tempus. You can look at all your popular names out there as well. NVIDIA's, AMD, Amazon, Apple, etc., etc. Every time I'll review an earnings report, I'll probably be showing charts from FinChat as well. So if you want, there is a link down in the description and in the pinned comment. You'll get, for this week specifically, 25% off instead of 15. You support yourself and you support me and the channel. New members do get 2 weeks of FinChat Pro for free. So do check them out. Now zooming out a little bit here and looking at the healthcare market, or more specifically AI in the healthcare market, that's expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 49.1% from 2024 to 2030. That's $14.92 billion to $164.16 billion. And of course, Tempus is going to play a part in that. They think they can play a very, very big part in that. Now, as I said at the start, they have 3 segments, right? You have the genomics, the diagnostic testing, the data part, licensing and analytics tool, and then the smaller ones here, application, therapy, and trial matching. Still early days for that. But the genomics segment, that grew 24.4% year over year in 2024, and that accounts for 65% of revenue. Data licensing, that increased 43.2% in 2024 and 71.5% gross margins. They're also partnering up with 19 of the 20 largest public pharmaceutical companies. They are also now connected to around 3,000 providers in the United States. Looking at last quarter specifically, revenue increased 35.8% year over year. Gross profit surged $122.1 million. That's up 49.7% year over year. That's led by data and services. Genomics revenue increased 30.6% year over year. Data and services one did increase faster, 44.6% year over year. Net loss, there's still a loss. Like I said, it's unprofitable at the moment, but that did improve. Net loss of $13 million compared to $50.5 million Q4 2023. Adjusted EBITDA loss here also improved quite a lot, $7.8 million compared to a loss of $35.1 million same quarter last year. Now, as for guidance for 2025, they expect revenue to be $1.24 billion. That's around 79% year over year increase, and adjusted EBITDA is expected to be $5 million. So that's $110 million improvement over 2024. Our increased 2025 guidance maintains core Tempus revenue growth of around 30% and includes around 11 months of Ambry revenue. That's a company that they did acquire. They announced that acquisition 3 months ago. So that includes 11 months of Ambry revenue, given the acquisition closed February 3rd, 2025. They forecast recognizing approximately 20% of their annual revenue guidance in the first quarter. By the end of the first quarter, they expect approximately 20% of their XT volume will migrate to XT CDX, which has been granted ADLT status by CMS with confirmed pricing of around $4,500, increasing to approximately 40% by year end. That's all about algorithms here. Now, of course, there are still some risks attached to it, right? It's nice to see that they're expected to grow quite rapidly revenue-wise. Free cash flow is actually expected to be positive from here on out, but there are still some risks. First of all, right now, they're still losing money. So it remains to be seen how fast they can turn that around. Of course, saying that you will improve your profitability profile is one thing. Improving it is another. Right? Reaching that profitable milestone is probably very, very important. Then you'll probably have to deal with some regulators as well, especially when it comes to privacy, since we are talking here about AI and healthcare. So you have to take all of that into consideration. It looks like a good company, right? If we look at free cash flow margin, for example, it's still very, very negative, but it is trending in the right direction. Same with gross profit margin. By the way, this is also powered by FinChat. Here, gross profit margin, 25.9% in 2019. We're now at 55% and improving. So there's definitely something interesting here with that company. Now, just because Nancy Pelosi invested in it or has a position through options, which is probably very well in the green right now, does not mean that it makes it an obvious buy, although her track record is quite good. Now, right now is probably a better buy than back here at the peak, right? It's down 40% since the peak earlier this year. We've got more information about the company, and next week we'll get even more information about the company. I do think that they do have a lot of momentum, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing a spike in stock price after the next earnings report. Now, again, at the end of the day, the bottom line is always the same. With Tempus or any other company out there, are you interested enough in that company, in that sector, to be willing to open a position and to be willing to invest in that specific company? Of course, you can do the same thing as Nancy did, which is basically play the options game here, or you can just buy shares and see where it goes. Now, since we are in earnings season, of course, buying before an earnings is always risky. Yes, it can work out, but it can also not work out. We just had a couple of days of extreme green, so I wouldn't be surprised if we suddenly have some days where we see some pullbacks. But if you're really interested, then never hurts to open a small position before an earnings report. Then the report, you get more information from management, and then you see stock goes up, your initial position is up, you can even buy more because you like the information, or stock goes down, you got more information, now you can buy more shares with the same amount of money. So what do you think? Tempus AI on the buy list, watch list, or no interest? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons. Do check out FinChat for 25% off, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.